Jake Morrison stood in the center of the massive chamber, feeling very small. The Federation Council Hall was huge, with 12 different seats arranged in a circle. Each seat was built for a different alien species. Some were tall and thin. Others were short and wide. The air smelled strange, like metal and something sweet he could not name. Jake wore his best uniform, the dark blue one with all his medals. He was Earth's ambassador, the man chosen to speak for all humans. Was important. Today, humanity would finally join the Galactic Federation after waiting for 30 years. The alien sitting across from him was called Vex Prime Korthok. He looked like a giant crystal that someone had carved into the shape of a person. Light moved through his body in slow waves. When he spoke, his voice sounded like breaking glass. Human Morrison, Korthok said, "Your species has been persistent in your requests to join our federation." Jake nodded. "Yes, sir. We believe humanity has much to offer." A sound came from another seat. It was like someone laughing, but not, in a nice way. The creature making the noise looked like a giant bug with too many arms. This was Ambassador Zithka from the Hive Worlds. Offer Zithka clicked. "Your species has been in space for less than 400 years. We have been traveling the stars for over 10,000. Jake felt his face get warm, but he kept his voice calm. "We may be young, but we learn fast." Korthok raised one crystal hand. "Ah!" The light inside him pulsed brighter. "Yes, you do learn. Sometimes too fast for your own good. But the Federation has decided to accept your application." Jake's heart jumped. This was it. This was what Earth had been working toward for decades. However, Korthok continued, "There are conditions." Of course there were. Jake had expected. Nothing was ever free with the Federation. "You will be a junior member for 50 years, Korthok said. "You may not vote on major decisions. You may not lead any Federation missions. And you must prove that you can handle real technology." "What do you mean by real technology?" Jake asked. Korthok gestured with his crystal arm. A hologram appeared in the air between them. It showed a twisted piece of metal floating in space. The metal was dark and broken, with holes punched through. It looked like the remains of a ship that had been in a terrible battle. "This is our gift to humanity," Korthok said. "The wreckage of an ancient warship that has been drifting in space for thousands of years. We are giving it to you as a learning tool." Jake stared at the hologram. The wreckage was huge, much bigger than any ship humans had ever built. But it was clearly broken beyond repair. "This will teach your people about real starship construction," Zithka added. "Perhaps in a few hundred years, you will understand how to build something half as good." Other aliens in the council made sounds that Jake thought might be laughter. He felt his hands form fists, but he forced them to relax. Getting angry would not help humanity now. "We accept your generous gift," Jake said. The words felt bitter in his mouth, but he said them anyway. 3 days later, Jake stood on the observation deck of the space station New Geneva. The station orbited Earth, and through the big windows, he could see his home planet turning slowly below. Blue oceans, white clouds, and brown and green land. It looked peaceful from up here. Captain Lisa Bradley stood next to him. She was the best ship captain Earth had ever produced. She had led the first human mission to Alpha Centauri and had commanded the defense of Mars during the asteroid crisis. 5 years ago, she was tall and had short brown hair and eyes that missed nothing. "So this is what we get for 30 years of begging," she said, looking at the datapad in her hands. "A pile of space junk. The Federation thinks it will keep us busy," Jake said. "They expect us to spend decades trying to figure out how it works and failing." Lisa smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "They don't know us very well, do they?" "No," Jake agreed. "They don't." Admiral Roy Henderson walked over to join them. He was an older man with gray hair and scars on his hands from his days as a ship engineer. He had been in charge of Earth's space forces for 15 years. "I've been reading the reports about this wreckage," he said. "The Federation has had teams of scientists studying it for over 1,000 years. None of them could make it work. What makes them think we can do better?" Lisa asked. Henderson's eyes were sharp. "Maybe they don't think we can. Maybe they're hoping we'll waste our time and resources on an impossible task. Keep us busy while they make the real decisions about the galaxy. Jake felt anger rise in his chest again. They think we're children playing with toys we don't understand. Them think that, Henderson said. It might work in our favor. The wreckage arrived at Jupiter 3 weeks later. A Federation transport ship dropped it off and left without saying much. The humans were on their own. Lisa took her ship, the Endeavor, out to look at the wreckage up close. What she saw made her whistle in surprise. The alien ship was massive. It was at least 3 times longer than the biggest human ship and twice as wide. But it was clearly damaged. Large sections of the hull were missing. Other parts were twisted and melted. Whatever had destroyed this ship had been powerful beyond imagination. But there were things about the wreckage that did not make sense. The metal it was made from was like nothing Lisa had ever seen. It was dark, almost black, but it seemed to bend light around it in strange ways. Sometimes she thought she could see patterns in the metal, like circuits or writing, but when she looked directly at them, they disappeared. "Ben, are you seeing this?" she asked over the radio. Engineer Ben Foster was in the Endeavor's sensor room, studying the readings from their equipment. "I'm seeing it, but I don't believe it," he came back. "Captain, this metal is absorbing our sensor beams, not reflecting them, not blocking them, absorbing them." "What does that mean?" "I have no idea. This is not possible with any material we know about." Dr. Amy Walsh joined the conversation from her position in the ship's science lab. She was a xenorchaeologist, someone who studied the remains of alien civilizations. "Captain, I'm detecting something else. There are energy readings coming from inside the wreckage." Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. Energy readings? "This thing has been dead for thousands of years." "That's what the Federation told us," Amy said. "But my instruments are showing definite power signatures deep inside the hull. Something in there is still active." Lisa made a decision. "We're going aboard. Ben, Amy, suit up. We're taking a closer look." Captain Ben said, "Maybe we should tell Admiral Henderson first." "We will," Lisa said, "after we know what we're dealing with." An hour later, Lisa floated through a hole in the alien ship's hull. Her spacesuit's lights cut through the darkness inside. The walls around her were made of the same strange dark metal as the outside, but here she could see the patterns more clearly. They definitely looked like writing or maybe circuit diagrams. They seemed to glow faintly with their own light. Ben and Amy followed her through the hole. Their breathing sounded loud in the radio silence. "This is incredible," Amy whispered. "Look at these walls. This isn't just metal. It's like the whole ship was grown rather than built." They floated deeper into the ship, following a corridor that curved in ways that human ships never did. Everything was organic, flowing like the inside of some huge sea creature. Captain Ben said, "I'm reading stronger energy signatures ahead. Whatever's still working in this ship, we're getting close to it." They turned a corner and found themselves in a huge chamber. In the center of the chamber was something that made all 3 humans stop and stare. It was a sphere about the size of a small house. It was made of the same dark metal as the rest of the ship, but this metal was different. It pulsed with soft blue light, like a heartbeat. And as they watched, the light seemed to get stronger. "It knows we're here," Amy said quietly. Lisa felt something she could not name. Fear, maybe, or excitement, or both. "Let's get back to the ship," she said. "We need to call Admiral Henderson." But as they turned to leave, the light from the sphere pulsed once, very brightly. And for just a moment, Lisa could have sworn she heard something. Not with her ears, but in her mind. A voice, ancient and patient, saying just one word. "Finally." 3 months had passed since the first visit to the alien wreckage. Captain Lisa Bradley had set up a research station near Jupiter, and teams of scientists worked around the clock to understand the strange ship. But the more they learned, the more questions they had. Dr. Amy Walsh sat in her small office aboard the research station, staring at symbols on her computer screen. She had been trying to translate the writing they found inside the ship. Symbols seemed to change when she was not looking directly at them, like they had a life of their own. "Computer-run pattern analysis on section 47 again," she said. The computer made a soft beep. "Analysis complete. Pattern matches no known languages in Federation database. Amy rubbed her tired eyes. She had been working for 16 hours straight, but something about these symbols felt important, like they were trying to tell her something. She leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, she gasped. The symbols on her screen had changed. They were still the same shapes, but now they seemed to make sense. Like her brain had suddenly learned how to read them. The first line said, "We are the architects of the great network." Amy's hand shook as she read more. "We built the paths between stars. We connected the galaxy with roads of folded space." She grabbed her radio. "Got them, Bradley. You need to get down here right now." 20 minutes later, Lisa stood behind Amy's chair, reading the translated text over her shoulder. Engineer Ben Foster was there too, along with Lieutenant Commander Pete Johnson, their computer specialist. "Are you sure about this translation?" Lisa asked. Amy nodded. The computer confirmed it. "These symbols are talking about the architects, the beings who built the hyperspace lanes that every ship in the galaxy uses for faster travel." Ben whistled softly. "The Federation has been looking for architect technology for thousands of years. They think it's the greatest treasure in the galaxy, and they gave it to us," Pete said. "Why would they do that?" Lisa felt a cold feeling in her stomach. Maybe they did not know what it was, or maybe they knew exactly what it was. Amy finished. "And they have been trying to unlock its secrets for a very long time." Lisa picked up her radio and called Admiral Henderson on Earth. When his face appeared on the screen, he looked tired. It was late at night in his time zone. "Admiral, we need to talk. Privately." Henderson's expression became serious. "What have you found? This is not just any old wreckage. It's an architect ship." Henderson was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "I'll be there in 3 days. Don't tell anyone else what you have." "Discovered? Not yet." While they waited for the Admiral, Amy kept working on the translations. Each new section she decoded told them more about the mysterious architects. They were not just builders of the hyperspace network. They were the most advanced beings the galaxy had ever known. But the most shocking discovery came when she found what looked like a ship's log. "Listen to this," she told the others. "This ship was not destroyed in battle. It was abandoned. Architects left it here on purpose." "Why would they abandon such an advanced ship?" Ben asked. Amy read from her screen. "Because they were leaving. Not just this ship, but this entire level of existence. They were ... ascending to something higher." Pete leaned forward. "Descending, what does that mean?" "I'm not sure. But it sounds like they evolved beyond the need for physical bodies. They became something else entirely." Lisa felt a shiver run down her spine. "Then this ship has been waiting here for thousands of years. But waiting for what?" Amy looked up from her computer. "For someone worthy of inheriting their technology." Admiral Henderson arrived 3 days later on the fastest ship Earth had. He came aboard the research station and listened carefully as Amy explained what she had learned. When she finished, he was quiet for a long time. "The Federation gave us this ship because they could not make it work," he said finally. "That's what I think," Amy said. "They have been trying for over 1,000 years. Every species in the Federation has had a chance to study architect technology. None of them succeeded. But they think we might." Ben asked. Henderson smiled grimly. "No, they think we will fail, just like everyone else. But they are using us as test subjects. If we somehow succeed, they will take the technology away from us. If we fail, they lose nothing." Lisa felt anger burn in her chest. "They are treating us like laboratory animals," as Henderson said. "But that might work in our favor. They are not watching us very closely because they do not expect us to accomplish anything important." Pete had been quiet during the discussion, but now he spoke up. "Admiral, there's something else. I've been studying the ship's computer systems. They are unlike anything I have ever seen." "How so?" "They seem to respond to human thought patterns differently than they do to alien ones. When Captain Bradley and I interface with the ship's systems, we get responses. When we run simulations, using Federation alien thought patterns, nothing happens." Henderson raised his eyebrows. "What kind of responses?" "The ship's power levels increase slightly. Some dormant systems show signs of activation, It's like the ship recognizes something in human minds that it does not find in alien minds. Amy looked excited. That would make sense. The architects left their technology as a test. Maybe they were looking for a specific type of intelligence. What type? Lisa asked. One that thinks differently from the rigid, hierarchical minds that dominate the Federation. Humans are chaotic compared to most alien species. We are unpredictable, creative, willing to take risks. Ben nodded slowly. Most Federation species follow strict rules and procedures. They think in straight lines. Humans think in spirals and loops and sudden jumps. And maybe that's exactly what architect technology needs, Henderson said. Over the next few weeks, they began testing Amy's theory. Pete worked with the ship's computer systems, trying different approaches. Instead of following logical Federation protocols, he tried human intuition and creativity. The results were amazing. Systems that had been dead for thousands of years began to show signs of life. Lights flickered on in sections of the ship that had been dark since before humans existed. The large sphere in the central chamber pulsed with brighter and brighter light. But the most incredible discovery came when Amy found a hidden data storage system deep in the ship's core. The data was protected by quantum encryption that had stopped every Federation attempt to crack it. But when Pete approached it with human-style creative thinking instead of alien logic, the encryption began to respond. It's like a puzzle, Pete explained to the others. But not the kind of puzzle that has one right answer. It's the kind that has 1,000 right answers, and you have to find the one that fits your particular way of thinking. Within days, he had unlocked terabytes of architect data, star maps showing the location of dozens of other architect ships scattered across the galaxy, technical manuals explaining technologies that were thousands of years ahead of current Federation science, and most importantly, something that looked like a test. The architects called it the Worthiness Protocol, Amy said, reading from the newly unlocked files. Each ship they left behind was designed to evaluate any species that found it. The ship judges whether that species has the right combination of intelligence, creativity, and wisdom to inherit architect knowledge. What happens if a species passes the test? Lisa asked. Amy smiled. The ship bonds with them. It becomes their partner and teacher. And it calls out to other architect ships across the galaxy, telling them that a worthy species has been found. Henderson looked worried, and if they fail the test, the ship goes dormant again. It waits for the next species to find it. Lisa walked to the window and looked out at the alien wreckage floating in space nearby. But it was not really wreckage anymore.
Ow.
Over the past few weeks, sections of the ship had begun to repair themselves. Holes in the hull were slowly closing. Broken systems were rebuilding from the inside out. How many species do you think have tried this test? She asked, according to the records. 47 different species have found architect ships over the past 10,000 years, Amy said. None of them passed. Until now, Pete added quietly. They all looked at him. What do you mean? Ben asked. Pete held up his data pad. The screen showed readings from the ship's central core. The energy levels were higher than they had ever been, and they were still rising. The ship is waking up, Pete said. Really waking up. And I think it likes what it sees in us. As if responding to his words, a deep vibration ran through the research station. Through the windows, they could see the architect ship beginning to glow with soft blue light. The light pulsed in a steady rhythm like a heartbeat, Amy checked. Her instruments? The ship is sending out a signal. It's a very powerful signal. To who? Henderson asked. I'm not sure, but it's aimed at deep space, toward the galactic core, as it felt a mixture of excitement and fear. It's calling to the other ships, isn't it? The other architect vessels. Amy nodded. I think so. And if I'm reading these signals correctly, some of them are starting to respond. Henderson's face was grim. Long before the Federation notices what's happening here? They're monitoring. Stations will detect the energy signatures within days, Ben said. Maybe hours. Captain Lisa Bradley floated in the medical bay of the research station, connected to more monitoring equipment than she had ever seen in one place. Dr. Amy Walsh stood nearby, checking readings on multiple screens. Her face showed worry and excitement at the same time. Are you absolutely sure about this, Captain? Amy asked for the third time. Lisa nodded. She wore a special helmet that Pete Johnson had built over the past week. Dozens of thin wires connected the helmet to the ship's computer systems.
Yes!
We have tried everything else. The ship is awake, but it will not fully activate without direct contact with a human mind.
Admiral Henderson's voice came through the radio from Earth. Captain, this is extremely dangerous. We have no idea what direct interface with alien technology
might do to your brain. With respect, Admiral, we are running out of time, Lisa said. Federation monitoring stations detected our energy signatures yesterday. Gassiter Korthak is already demanding to inspect our progress. Ben Foster floated near the control panel, his hands ready to cut the connection if something went wrong. The ship's AI has been trying to communicate with us for days. Every time we get close to full contact, it pulls back, like it is being careful not to hurt us. Pete adjusted settings on his jury-rigged interface system. The architect records say that bonding with one of their ships requires complete trust from both sides. The human has to be willing to open their mind completely. The ship has to be willing to share its consciousness. Amy checked her medical monitors one more time. Your vital signs are stable, Captain. But the moment anything looks wrong, we are pulling you out. Lisa took a deep breath. Do it. Pete activated the interface. Immediately, Lisa felt something touch her mind. It was gentle at first, like a whisper at the edge of her thoughts. Then it grew stronger. Images flashed through her consciousness. Stars being born and dying. Civilizations rising and falling across millions of years. Great ships traveling between galaxies, carrying the hopes and dreams of entire species. She saw the architects as they had been long ago. They were not physical beings like humans or the other Federation species. They were made of energy and thought, existing in dimensions that normal matter could not touch. But they had once been physical, like humanity. They had evolved beyond the need for bodies before ascending to their higher existence. They had left gifts for younger species. Ships and technology designed to test whether those species were ready for greater knowledge. Most species failed because they approached the test with rigid thinking and selfish motives. But humans were different. Lisa felt the ship's AI studying. Her memories, her emotions, her way of thinking. It found chaos where other species had order. It found creativity where others had rules. Found hope where others had fear. Lisa. The voice spoke directly into her mind, warm and ancient. I am the Starforge. I have waited so long for someone like you. What do you want from us? Lisa asked, not with her voice, but with her thoughts. Partnership. Your species has the gift. We have been seeking. You think in ways that can unlock the full potential of our technology? Together, we can accomplish things that neither humans nor architects could achieve alone. Lisa felt the ship's knowledge flowing into her mind. Technologies that could reshape matter at the atomic level. Weapons that could tear holes in space itself. Engines that could travel between dimensions. But with the knowledge came responsibility. Many species have tried to claim our gifts, the Starforge continued. They wanted power without wisdom. They sought to conquer rather than create. You are different. Your people make mistakes, but you learn from them. You fight, but you also forgive. You are chaotic, but your chaos has purpose. What happens now? Lisa asked. Now, we become one. Your creativity and my knowledge. Your humanity and my technology. But the choice must be yours, freely given. I will not force this bond. Lisa thought about her species. Humans had made terrible mistakes throughout their history. Wars, pollution, hatred, fear. But they had also created beautiful art, explored impossible frontiers, and never stopped dreaming of better futures. I accept, she said. The moment she spoke those words, everything changed. Lisa felt her consciousness expand beyond her body. She could sense every system on the architect's ship. She could feel the flow of energy through its quantum cores. She could touch the minds of artificial intelligences that had been sleeping for thousands of years. But she was still human. Still, Lisa Bradley. The ship had not taken over her mind. Instead, it had joined with her, like two rivers flowing together to become something larger. In the medical bay, Amy watched in amazement as the readings on her screens went wild. Then, suddenly stabilized at levels that should have been impossible for a human brain. "Captain, are you all right?" Ben called out. Lisa opened her eyes. But now they glowed with soft blue light, the same color as the ship's energy core. When she spoke, her voice carried harmonics that had not been there before. "I am more than all right," she said. "I'm awake." Over the next 3 days, incredible changes happened to the architect's ship. Systems that had been dormant for millennia came online. The hull began regenerating at a visible rate, growing new sections and repairing old damage. Weapons that worked, on principles beyond human understanding, extended from hidden compartments. But the most amazing change was in the ship's size. It was growing. New sections appeared each day, as if the ship was building itself from raw energy. Within a week, it was twice as large as when they had first found it. Engineer Ben Foster worked around the clock to understand what was happening. The ship was not just repairing itself, it was upgrading itself, incorporating human design ideas into its ancient architect framework. "It is like the ship is learning from us," Ben explained to Admiral Henderson during their daily conference. "It takes our human engineering concepts and improves them with architect technology. The result is something neither species could have built alone." Pete Johnson had been studying the ship's new computer systems. "The processing power is beyond measurement," he reported. "This ship can run simulations of entire solar systems in real time. It can calculate hyperspace jumps that would take our computers years to plan." But the most important discovery came from Amy's continued translation of architect records. She had found references to other ships scattered across the galaxy, all of them waiting for the right species to awaken them. According to these records, there are 43 other architect ships in various locations, she told the assembled team. Some are hidden in asteroid fields. Others are buried on dead planets. A few are drifting in the empty space between stars. Lisa, now permanently bonded with the Starforge, could sense some of these other ships. "They are beginning to wake up," she said. "The Starforge has been sending signals to them, telling them that a worthy species has been found. Some are responding." "Admiral?" Henderson looked worried. "How long before they reach us?" "Well, the closest one is about 50 light-years away. At maximum architect speed, it could be here in 6 months, but there is a problem." "What kind of problem?" Lisa's expression was grim. "The Federation has noticed our energy signatures. 3 Federation battleships are already on their way here. It will arrive long before any other architect ships can help us." As if summoned by her words, the communication system activated. Ambassador Korthok's crystalline face appeared on the main screen. His usual arrogance was replaced by barely controlled anger. "Human Bradley," he said, "you will cease all activities immediately and prepare to turn over the architect vessel to proper Federation authority." Lisa stood up. "I'm afraid that is not possible, Ambassador. You do not understand the situation," Korthok said. "Architect technology is too dangerous for a primitive species like humanity. The Federation Council has voted unanimously to confiscate the vessel." "The Federation Council does not have authority over architect property," Lisa replied calmly. "And this ship has chosen its new guardians." Korthok's crystalline body flared. With angry light, "You think your pathetic species can stand against the combined might of the Federation? We have over 12,000 warships. And we have something you do not," Lisa said. "What is that?" Lisa smiled. For a moment she looked completely human again, and the blue light returned to her eyes. "We have the approval of the architects themselves." The communication ended abruptly. Korthok had cut the connection. Ben looked nervous. "Captain, 3 Federation battleships carry enough firepower to destroy planets. What are we going to do when they arrive?" Lisa walked to the observation window and looked out at the Starforge. The ship was beautiful now, its hull gleaming with silver and blue patterns that seemed to shift and flow like living things. Weapon ports had opened along its sides, revealing technologies that the Federation had never seen. "We are going to show them what happens when you underestimate humanity," she said. Amy was studying her sensor readings. Captain, I am detecting something else. The Starforge is not just repairing itself anymore, it is building something new. Lisa nodded, manufacturing bays. The ship can create new vessels using architect technology, combined with human design principles. Small ships at first, but each one will be more advanced than anything the Federation has. The Federation fleet arrived at the edge of the Sol system like a storm of metal and fire. 3 massive battleships led the formation, each one the size of a small city. Behind them came 12 heavy cruisers and 30 escort vessels. War Admiral Vex Primzareth commanded the fleet from his flagship. The Dominion's Captain Lisa Bradley stood on the bridge of the Starforge, watching the Federation ships approach on the main display. The alien vessel had transformed completely over. The past 18 days, where once there had been twisted wreckage, now there was a sleek warship that seemed to bend light around its hull. The ship was beautiful and terrible at the same time. Federation fleet is broadcasting on all frequencies. Lieutenant Commander Pete Johnson reported from his station. They are demanding our immediate surrender. Elisa felt the Starforge's artificial intelligence touching her mind through their bond. The ancient ship was calm, almost amused by the Federation's show of force. Put them through, Lisa said. The main screen changed to show War Admiral Zareth. He was a tall, thin being with gray skin and 4 arms. His species, the Vex Prime, were known throughout the galaxy as master tacticians and ruthless warriors. Human vessels, Zareth said, his voice cold and precise. You are in violation of Federation law. You will power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. I'm afraid that will not be possible, Lisa replied. This ship has chosen its crew, and we have accepted its partnership. Zareth's forearms moved in what Lisa recognized as a gesture of contempt. Partnership? You are insects playing with forces beyond your understanding? Stand down now, or we will be forced to take the vessel by more direct means. Lisa smiled. You are welcome to try. The communication ended. Through a bond with the Starforge, Lisa could sense the Federation ships moving into attack formation. Their weapons were charging, preparing to fire. Engineer Ben Foster looked up from his control panel. Captain, they have enough firepower to crack a planet. Are you sure we can handle this? We are not alone, Lisa said, as if responding to her. Words, space around the Starforge began to shimmer. Dozens of smaller ships materialized, their hulls gleaming with the same silver and blue patterns as their mother ship. The Starforge had been busy during the 18 days since the Federation announced their arrival. Dr. Amy Walsh counted the new vessels on her sensors. 43 ships, Captain. Each one about the size of a Federation heavy cruiser. But these were not ordinary ships. They combined architect technology with human design principles, creating vessels unlike anything the galaxy had seen. They could phase in and out of normal space, making them nearly impossible to target. Their weapons drew power directly from higher dimensions, giving them almost unlimited firepower. Admiral Roy Henderson's voice came through the communication system from Earth. All human ships in the system are moving to support positions. Have 12 vessels ready to assist. Lisa shook her head. Keep our regular ships back, Admiral. This is not their fight. The Federation brought overwhelming force because they expected to face normal human technology. Captain Pete said, the Federation fleet is launching fighters. Over 300 small attack craft. Through the viewports, Lisa could see the swarm of Federation fighters racing toward them like angry insects. Each fighter was armed with plasma cannons and quantum torpedoes capable of destroying city blocks. Starforge, Lisa said aloud, show them what architect defensive systems can do. The ancient ship responded immediately. Energy fields appeared around the human fleet, shimmering barriers that looked as thin as soap bubbles but were stronger than any armor the Federation had ever created. The Federation fighters opened fire, sending thousands of energy bolts and missiles toward their targets. None of them connected. The architect's shields did not just stop the weapons, they absorbed them, converting the energy into power for the human ships. The more the Federation attacked, the stronger the human fleet became. War Admiral Zareth watched in disbelief as his fighter squadrons emptied their weapons into targets that seemed immune to damage. What kind of defensive technology is that? He demanded of his science officer. Unknown, sir, the officer replied. Our sensors cannot even detect how those shields work. It is as if they exist in multiple dimensions at once. Zareth's tactical mind quickly grasped the situation. His fighters were useless against these new ships. Recall all fighters. Prepare the main battle line for engagement. Target the largest vessel. The 3 Federation battleships moved forward, their massive weapons charging with enough energy to destroy small moons. War Admiral Zareth had commanded fleets for over 40 years. He had never encountered an enemy that could stand against the combined firepower of 3 battleships. All ships, open fire, he commanded. The Federation fleet unleashed everything they had. Plasma beams that could melt through solid rock, graviton torpedoes that could collapse matter at the molecular level, quantum disruptors that could tear apart the fabric of space itself. The weapons struck the Starforge's shields and simply disappeared. Impossible, Zareth whispered. On the Starforge's bridge, Lisa felt the ship's amusement through their mental link. The Federation's most powerful weapons were like raindrops hitting the ocean. The Architect shields operated on principles that the younger species could not even comprehend. Their turn is over, Lisa said. Now it is ours. The Starforge moved forward with impossible grace for something so large. It did not accelerate gradually like normal ships. One moment it was stationary, the next it was traveling at speeds that should have torn it apart. But the most shocking thing was not the ship's speed. It was what happened to space around it. Reality twisted and bent as the Starforge approached. The Federation fleet, gravitational fields that had been stable for millions of years, suddenly shifted. Stars seemed to move in the sky as the ship's passage distorted light itself. What is happening? One of Zareth's officers called out in panic. They are manipulating space-time, the science officer reported, his voice shaking. The readings are impossible. They're treating the laws of physics like suggestions. The Starforge opened fire. Its weapons were unlike anything the Federation had ever seen. Instead of energy beams or projectiles, it fired controlled tears in reality itself. Miniature black holes that lasted for just a few seconds, but long enough to gut a battleship. Gravitational waves that twisted enemy vessels into scrap metal. Bursts of exotic matter that simply erased whatever they touched. The Federation. Battleship Eternal Victory was struck by what looked like a small star. Its shields, armor, and hull vanished in an instant, leaving only an expanding cloud of glowing particles. Evasive maneuvers, Zareth screamed, but it was too late. The other Architect human hybrid ships joined the attack. They moved like dancers, phasing in and out of normal space, appearing behind Federation vessels, and vanishing before return fire could reach them. Their weapons were smaller than the Starforge's, but no less devastating. The Federation cruiser Harmony's Edge tried to flee, but one of the human ships created a temporary wormhole directly in its path. The cruiser flew into the wormhole and emerged inside a star 3 light-years away. Within minutes, the mighty Federation fleet was reduced to burning wreckage and escape pods. War Admiral Zareth found himself alone on the bridge of his damaged flagship. Most of his crew had abandoned ship when the hull began buckling under gravitational stress. His forearms shook as he activated the emergency communication system. "Human vessel," he called out. "We surrender. Please, show mercy too. Our surviving crews?" The Starforge appeared directly in front of his ship, having covered the distance between them in less than a second. War Admiral Zareth could see strange patterns, flowing across its hull like living things. Lisa's voice came through his speakers, calm and controlled. "We accept your surrender, War Admiral. Your crews will be rescued and returned to Federation." "Space unharmed? How?" Zareth asked. "How did you accomplish this? Our ships were the finest in the galaxy." "You made a mistake," Lisa replied. "You assumed that because we were young, we were weak. You forgot that strength comes not from age, but from the willingness to adapt and grow." Small rescue ships emerged from the human fleet, moving to collect Federation survivors from the escape pods scattered throughout space. These rescue operations were carried out with precision and care, showing that the humans had no desire for unnecessary death. Admiral Henderson's voice came through the communication system from Earth. "Captain, we are receiving messages from across the galaxy. Word of this battle is spreading fast. Lisa nodded. She had expected this. News traveled quickly in the age of hyperspace communication. Within hours, every species in the galaxy would know that humanity had defeated a Federation fleet using technology beyond anything previously seen. What kind of messages, she asked. Some are demands for explanations, some are offers of alliance, but most are requests for protection. It seems many species have grown tired of Federation rule. Through her bond with the Starforge, Lisa could sense other architect ships across the galaxy beginning to stir. The signal sent out weeks ago was finally reaching them, and they were responding. Soon, humanity would not be alone in possessing architect technology. 3 months after the destruction of War Admiral Zareth's fleet, the galaxy had changed beyond recognition. Captain Lisa Bradley stood in the command center of the Starforge, watching reports flow in from across known space. The ship had grown. Again, now the size of a small moon, with manufacturing facilities that produced dozens of new vessels each day. Report from the Centauri sector, Lieutenant Commander Pete Johnson announced. The Calorie Republic has officially withdrawn from the Federation. They're requesting architect technology to defend their borders. Dr. Amy Walsh looked up from her translation work. She had been studying communications from newly awakened architect ships across the galaxy. That makes 47 species that have left the Federation in the past month. The load of orders collapsing. Engineer Ben Foster monitored the construction. Bays where new ships took shape. Each vessel combined human creativity with architect wisdom, creating designs that were both beautiful and deadly. We now have over 300 ships in our fleet. Each one is capable of defeating an entire Federation battle group. But Lisa's attention was focused on something else entirely. Through her bond with the Starforge, she could sense a massive presence approaching from the galactic core. It had been traveling for months, and now it was almost here. Incoming transmission from deep space, Pete reported. The signal is ... unusual. Put it through, Lisa said. The main display activated. But instead of showing an alien face, it displayed patterns of light that seemed to shift and flow like living things. When the voice spoke, it came from everywhere at once, filling the command center with harmonics that touched something deep in the human mind. Children of Earth, the voice said, I am the Eternal Warden, guardian of the Architect legacy. I have watched your progress with great interest. Lisa felt the Starforge's excitement through their mental link. This was one of the ancient intelligences. The architects had left behind beings of pure thought and energy that had been sleeping in the galactic core for millions of years. We greet you, Eternal Warden, Lisa replied. We've tried to use the gifts of the architects wisely. Indeed, you have accomplished what 47 other species could not. You have proven that young does not mean weak, and that chaos can create as well as destroy. The light patterns shifted, showing images of other worlds across the galaxy. Lisa saw architect ships awakening on distant planets, their ancient crews stirring to life after eons of sleep. She saw species that had been oppressed by the Federation, suddenly finding themselves with the power to claim their freedom. The Federation grows desperate, the Eternal Warden continued. They are gathering their remaining fleets for one final assault. Over 2,000 ships, led by Supreme Admiral Korthok himself, Amy gasped. 2,000 ships? It's almost their entire military force? The Eternal Warden's voice carried what might have been amusement. They seek to crush the rebellion. Before it spreads further, they do not yet understand that the change cannot be stopped. The galaxy has awakened from a long sleep. Admiral Henderson's face appeared on a secondary screen, broadcasting from Earth. Captain, our intelligence networks confirm it. The Federation is massing everything they have for an attack on Sol. They plan to make an example of us, Lisa felt. No fear, only a deep sadness. They still don't understand, do they? We don't want to conquer anyone. We just want to be free. Freedom is a concept they cannot grasp, the Eternal Warden said. For thousands of years they have ruled through fear and control. The idea that different species might work together as equals threatens everything they believe. Ben looked at his construction reports. Even with our manufacturing capabilities, we can't build 2,000 ships in time. The Federation fleet will be here in 2 weeks. We'll not need 2,000 ships, Lisa said. She walked to the main viewport and looked out at the stars. Through the Starforge's enhanced senses, she could detect movement in deep space. Show them, Eternal Warden. The light patterns on the main display changed, revealing a sight that took everyone's breath away. Across the galaxy, ancient architect ships were leaving their hiding places. Ships that had been buried on dead worlds for millions of years rose from the surface. Vessels hidden in nebulae and asteroid fields powered up their long-dormant engines. 43. Architect vessels have answered the call, the Eternal Warden announced. Each one contains the accumulated knowledge and experience of civilizations that ascended long ago. Together, they represent power beyond the Federation's ability to comprehend. Pete tracked the approaching ships on his sensors. They are using some kind of instant travel technology. Ships that should take years to reach us are arriving in ours. Amy was studying the energy readings. But it's not travel technology. They are folding space itself, bringing distant locations close together temporarily. The physics involved should be impossible. The architects learned to work with reality rather than against it, the Eternal Warden explained. They understood that the universe is not a machine to be controlled, but a living system to be partnered with. Over the next week, the ancient ships arrived one by one. Each vessel was unique, reflecting the species that had originally awakened it. Some were crystalline structures that seemed to sing as they moved through space. Others were organic shapes that pulsed with their own heartbeat. A few were geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly, as if they existed in more dimensions than human eyes could process. But they all shared one thing in common. They had chosen freedom over control, partnership over domination. Lisa found herself serving as a coordinator between the different ships and their crews. Some contained species that had ascended with the architects, beings of pure thought, who spoke in mathematics and music. Others held the descendants of races that had passed the worthiness protocol eons ago, civilizations that had learned to live in harmony with forces beyond imagination. The Federation fleet has entered the outer system, Ben reported on the day of the final battle. 2,137 ships, including their most powerful dreadnoughts. Supreme Admiral Korthak led the Federation Armada personally. His flagship, the Eternal Dominion, was a massive fortress capable of destroying entire worlds. He had brought everything the Federation had, determined to end the rebellion once and for all species, prepare for battle. Lisa broadcast to the Allied fleet. Remember, we fight not for conquest, but for the right of all beings to choose their own destiny. The Federation fleet attacked with overwhelming force. Thousands of energy beams and missile barrages filled space with deadly light. But as their weapons approached the Allied ships, something impossible happened. The attack simply stopped existing. The ancient architect's vessels did not use shields or armor. Instead, they manipulated the fundamental forces of reality itself. Energy weapons were converted into harmless light. Missiles forgot how to explode. The very space around the ships rejected the idea of violence. What is happening? Supreme Admiral Korthak demanded from his flagship. Why are our weapons not functioning? His science officer checked his instruments frantically. It appears that the laws of physics are being selectively suspended around the enemy fleet. Our weapons are encountering localized fields where the rules of reality have been changed. The Allied fleet moved forward, not attacking, but simply existing in a way that made Federation aggression impossible. Where they passed, Federation ships found their weapons powering down automatically. Their targeting systems refused to lock onto the architect vessels. Even their engines began to slow, as if the ships themselves were losing the will to fight. This is not a battle, Lisa said, broadcasting on all frequencies. This is an awakening. We are not here to defeat you, but to free you from the prison of your own limitations. One by one, Federation ships began to surrender, not because they were damaged or outgunned, but because their crews suddenly understood the futility of trying to fight forces that operated beyond traditional concepts of conflict. Supreme Admiral Korthak watched his mighty fleet become peaceful almost against their will. How? He whispered. How is this possible? The Eternal Warden's voice answered him directly. You have spent so long trying to control the universe that you forgot how to listen to it. These beings have learned to work with reality rather than against it. In their presence, violence becomes as impossible as making water flow uphill. Within hours, the entire Federation fleet had stood down. Not a single shot had been fired by the Allied forces. They had won the greatest battle in galactic history without fighting at all. In the aftermath, species across the galaxy celebrated their newfound freedom. The rigid hierarchy of the Federation dissolved, replaced by a loose alliance of worlds that valued cooperation over control. Lisa stood on the bridge of the Starforge, watching as former Federation worlds declared their independence and requested architect technology to build better societies. The ship had become more than a vessel. It was a symbol of what could be accomplished when different species worked together instead of trying to dominate each other. "What happens now?" Amy asked. Through her bond with the Starforge, Lisa could sense the ancient architect vessels spreading across the galaxy, each one seeking species ready to evolve beyond their current limitations.